last section in our series on elements, compounds, and mixtures. We've already talked about elements and compounds in this last segment. We'll discuss mixtures. So again, the idea here is being able to distinguish between pure substances, which are elements or compounds, or between mixtures. We've got two types of mixtures, heterogeneous and homogeneous. A mixture is basically a mixture of those pure substances of elements and compounds. Mixtures are not chemically bonded substances. They can be separated by physical means. A heterogeneous mixture has parts that are distinguishable. As you see the granite there in the picture, you can see some dark parts of the rock. There's some lighter parts of the rock. A homogeneous mixture looks uniform throughout. It's hard to distinguish that there's different parts in there, and that's also called a solution. So as you can see by these pictures, that a mixture is a blend of two or more components that are visibly different. The dressing on the right-hand side, shows that there's two distinct phases of liquids there, and they are separating based on their densities. The dressing in the lower image, you can see that there's small parts in that mixture of the dressing, and then the salad is obviously a heterogeneous mixture. So a homogeneous mixture is still a mixture of either elements or compounds, but you can't distinguish the different parts. In the lab, you used a few different homogeneous mixtures. You had a sodium chloride mixture. You can't see those salt particles in the water once they're dissolved, but the salt retains its own properties, the water retains its own properties, and you just can't tell that there's something else in there. The silver nitrate was also a solution that you could not distinguish the different parts. Steel alloy is another example of a homogeneous mixture that is actually a solid. So that steel has iron, carbon mixed together, but they're not chemically bonded together. So key difference between mixtures and compounds is that a compound needs a chemical reaction in order to separate those elements out from each other. With a mixture, you can use physical means or the physical properties of the mixture to separate it. Filtration that's illustrated here is a process that will separate solid from the liquid in a heterogeneous mixture. Many of you used the filtration process in this last lab in the experiment with the silver nitrate and the sodium chloride. You basically formed a precipitate when you mixed those two liquids, and then you were able to separate that solid out from the liquid in that heterogeneous mixture by filtering it. Distillation is another process of separating some of the dissolved solids in tap water. What happens is you heat the liquid substance to its boiling point, evaporate it, and the dissolved solids end up being left behind when that water evaporates. A condenser, as you can see in the image here, is used to then recondense that water into its liquid form, and then you have that prepared distillate. So this is a way that water is cleaned for drinking purposes, and some of you have probably seen examples of this where water has evaporated on its own and left behind some solid crystals from the dissolved solids that were originally in the water. This next slide, this is just kind of a quick way to quiz yourself, see if you can tell the difference between each of these substances, if it's an element, a compound, or a mixture. So a lump of copper, would this be an element, compound, or mixture? If it's a lump of pure copper, a bag of gravel and sand, a stick of margarine, and a lump of sugar. So just take a minute in your mind and see if you can distinguish between these, identify the mixtures and what type of mixture it is, and identify the elements in the compound. So here's the answers. Copper, so if you have pure copper, that's going to be elements. A bag of gravel and sand would be a heterogeneous mixture because you can see that there's two different phases in that. A stick of margarine would be a homogeneous mixture, and then a lump of sugar would be a compound. And this completes the series on elements, compounds, and mixtures. And you should be able to tell the difference and distinguish between these at this point.